The sound of a newborn's scream cut through the silence of the penthouse like a blade through flesh. Harrison Cole stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Manhattan apartment, staring at the city lights below while his 3-day-old daughter wailed in her nursery. Each cry felt like it was tearing pieces from his chest. He had not slept in 72 hours. His wife was dead. Rachel had died 16 hours after giving birth. A blood clot, the doctors said. Sudden, unexpected, nothing anyone could have prevented. One moment she was holding their baby girl, tired but smiling, whispering the name they had chosen together. Grace. The next moment, nurses were rushing in, alarms were screaming, and Harrison was being pushed out of the room. By the time they let him back in, Rachel was gone. Just gone. Like she had never been there at all except for the tiny baby in the plastic hospital bassinet. Now Grace was crying again. She had barely stopped crying since they brought her home yesterday. The sound was different from normal baby cries. It was desperate, hungry, painful. Harrison walked back to the nursery on legs that felt like they might give out at any moment. His shirt was stained with spit up and formula. His eyes burned. His hands shook as he picked up his daughter. Please, Grace, he whispered. Please, baby girl. Please just eat something. He had tried everything. The lactation consultant at the hospital said Grace had trouble latching. Rachel had never gotten the chance to breastfeed successfully before she died. So they sent Harrison home with formula. But Grace could not keep it down. Every bottle ended the same way. She would drink a little, then scream, then vomit everything back up. The pediatrician said some babies had severe formula intolerance. They tried 3 different brands. Nothing worked. Grace had lost 8 ounces since birth. For a baby who weighed only 6 pounds to begin with, that was dangerous. Critical. The doctor's words kept echoing in Harrison's head. If she does not start gaining weight in the next 48 hours, we will need to hospitalize her. She could die, Mr. Cole. Babies can die from dehydration and malnutrition very quickly. His daughter could die. Just like Rachel had died. Harrison could lose everything in less than a week. He tried the bottle again. Grace's little mouth opened, latched onto the nipple, and she sucked weakly. Hope flickered in Harrison's chest. Maybe this time. Maybe she would keep it down this time. He had mixed it differently, warmed it more carefully, held her at a different angle. Maybe something would work. Grace drank for 30 seconds. Then her tiny face scrunched up. She started to choke. Harrison quickly pulled the bottle away and held her upright, patting her back. She coughed, gasped, then started screaming again. A moment later, she vomited the small amount she had swallowed all down the front of his shirt. No, 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 Harrison heard himself saying. His voice cracked. Please, Grace, you have to eat. Please. But she could not. Whatever was wrong, her little body could not handle the formula. And there was no breast milk. Rachel was gone. Her body had been taken to the funeral home that morning. Tomorrow there would be a service. Harrison would have to stand there and accept condolences while his daughter starved at home. He walked with Grace, bouncing gently, trying to soothe her. Her cries were getting weaker. That was worse than the loud screaming. Weak cries meant she was losing strength. Harrison felt panic crawling up his throat. He was the CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the country. He employed 15,000 people. He made decisions worth billions of dollars. But he could not feed his own baby. He could not save her. The night stretched on. Harrison tried the bottle every hour. Grace could not keep anything down. By 4 in the morning she was barely crying anymore. Just whimpering. Her little lips were dry. Her skin felt papery. Harrison called the pediatrician's emergency line. The nurse on call listened to his description and said what he already knew. Mr. Cole, you need to bring her to the emergency room. Tonight. Right now. No, Harrison said. His voice came out harsh. They will take her from me. They will put her in the hospital and I will lose her like I lost Rachel. There has to be another way. There has to be something. Mr. Cole, your daughter needs medical intervention. I understand your fear, but waiting could be fatal. Please bring her in. Harrison hung up. He could not do it. Could not hand over his baby to strangers in a hospital. That was where Rachel had died. Where everything had fallen apart. He held Grace against his chest, feeling her shallow breathing. He had never felt so helpless in his entire life. He was supposed to be powerful, rich, capable. But none of that mattered. All the money in the world could not make his daughter's body accept formula. Could not bring Rachel back. Could not fix this nightmare he was living in. Harrison walked to the nursery window and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, mothers were nursing their babies. Somewhere out there, families were whole and safe. His world had become a horror story. His wife dead. His baby dying. All in less than a week. Grace whimpered against his chest. The sound was so small. So weak. I'm sorry, Harrison whispered to her. I'm so sorry, baby girl. I do not know what to do. I do not know how to save you. The penthouse was silent except for Grace's labored breathing. Harrison had never known such complete despair. The dawn was coming. The deadline was coming. He had maybe 24 hours left before he would be forced to take Grace to the hospital, where they might save her or she might die anyway, and either way Harrison would lose everything that mattered. He had built an empire. Created wealth beyond measure. None of it meant anything. All that mattered was the tiny starving baby in his arms. The daughter he could not feed. The last piece of Rachel he had left in this world. And she was slipping away. Have you ever felt so helpless that every second felt like drowning? When was the last time you stopped scrolling to really think about what matters most? If this story is touching something in your heart, please subscribe and drop a comment below about a time when kindness changed your life. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. The knock at the door came at 11:47 p.m. Harrison had just finished another failed feeding attempt. Grace lay in his arms, too exhausted to cry anymore, just making small mewing sounds that broke his heart. He was not expecting anyone. His assistant Julie had left hours ago after bringing dinner he could not eat. His parents were flying in tomorrow for Rachel's funeral. No one should be at his door at midnight. The knock came again. Firm. Insistent. Harrison carefully placed Grace in her bassinet and walked to the door, his body moving on autopilot. He checked the security screen and saw a woman standing in the hallway. She was African American, tall, with her hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore dark blue scrubs and carried a large bag over her shoulder. She looked directly at the camera with an expression of calm determination. Harrison opened the door. Yes? Can I help you? Mr. Cole? My name is Simone Davis. I'm a lactation nurse at Metropolitan Hospital. I was on duty when your wife passed. I heard about your daughter's condition. Her voice was gentle but direct. She did not waste words. I know Grace cannot tolerate formula. I know she's losing weight dangerously fast. I'm here to offer help. Harrison stared at her. His brain felt like it was moving through mud. Help? What kind of help? The hospital already sent consultants. They could not do anything. Simone took a breath. Mr. Cole, I lost my baby son 3 weeks ago. He was stillborn. But my body still produces milk. I came here to offer to nurse your daughter. If you'll let me. The words hung in the air between them. Harrison's mind struggled to process what she was saying. This stranger, this woman who had lost her own child, was standing at his door at midnight offering to breastfeed Grace. It was irregular. Possibly inappropriate. Definitely unusual. But Grace was dying. You would do that? Harrison heard himself ask. His voice sounded strange. Worse. You would feed my daughter? Yes, Simone said simply. I heard the nurses talking about your situation. About how Grace cannot keep formula down and how she's losing weight. I thought about it for 2 days. I talked to my supervisor. This is not standard protocol. I could get in trouble. But I cannot stop thinking about your baby girl. About how I have what she needs and she's starving. It does not feel right to have this milk and not use it to save a baby's life. Harrison felt something crack open in his chest. Hope. Terrifying, desperate hope. Why would you do this? You do not know us. You just lost your own baby. Why would you put yourself through this? Simone's eyes were dark and steady. Because I know what it feels like to lose a child, Mr. Cole. And if I can stop you from feeling that same pain, then my son's death might mean something. Might have some purpose. I cannot bring Andre back. But I can feed Grace. If you want me to. From the nursery, Grace made a weak crying sound. Both of them turned toward it. Simone's expression shifted, becoming more urgent. How long since she ate anything? Simone asked. She cannot keep anything down, Harrison said. Every bottle makes her sick. It's been hours since she had more than an ounce. Mr. Cole, your daughter needs to eat right now. Tonight. Please let me help her. Harrison thought about protocols. About what people would say. About how unusual this was. Then he thought about Grace's weak cries. About the pediatrician's warnings. About the deadline ticking down. Yes, he said. Yes, please. Please help her. Simone stepped into the penthouse. Harrison closed the door behind her and led her to the nursery. Grace lay in her bassinet, her little face red from crying, her body so small and fragile. Simone set down her bag and washed her hands in the attached bathroom. Then she picked up Grace with practiced, gentle hands. Hello, sweet girl, Simone said softly. I know you're hungry. I know everything hurts right now, but we're going to fix that. You're going to eat and you're going to feel so much better. She settled into the rocking chair Harrison had bought for Rachel. Rachel had never gotten to use it. Harrison's throat tightened as he watched the stranger sit in his dead wife's chair, holding his dying daughter. Simone adjusted her scrub top and positioned Grace. Babies usually know what to do by instinct, she said quietly. Even when they have trouble with bottles. Breastfeeding is different. More natural for them. Harrison watched as Simone brought Grace close. The baby's mouth opened. She latched on. And then, for the first time in 3 days, Grace started to eat. Really eat. Her little jaw worked steadily. Her eyes closed. Her body relaxed. Harrison felt his knees go weak. He sat down hard on the floor, his back against the wall, and watched his daughter feed. Tears ran down his face. He did not try to stop them. She's doing it, he whispered. She's actually eating. She's hungry, Simone said. Her own eyes were wet. This is what she needed. What her body was asking for. She could not tell you in words, but she knew. Babies always know. They sat in silence for 15 minutes while Grace nursed. The baby's color improved. Her breathing steadied. When she finally finished and fell asleep against Simone's shoulder, she looked peaceful for the first time since Rachel died. She took about 3 ounces, Simone said softly. That's good for a first feeding. Better than I expected. She'll need to eat again in about 2 hours. Newborns feed every 2 to 3 hours around the clock. Harrison stood up slowly. His whole body ached from tension finally releasing. You would stay? You would keep feeding her? If you want me to, I can stay tonight and tomorrow. After that, we need to figure out a longer-term plan. Grace will need consistent feeding for months. But right now, tonight, she's fed. She's safe. You can breathe. Harrison looked at this woman who had walked into his life at midnight and saved his daughter. I do not know how to thank you. You do not need to thank me, Simone said. Just let me do this. Let me help Grace. That's all I want. Harrison nodded. The guest room is down the hall. You can stay as long as you need to. Anything you want, anything you need, just ask. Please. Simone stood up carefully, still holding Grace. I'll need to feed her every few hours. Is it okay if I keep her in the guest room with me tonight? That way you can get some sleep. You look like you're about to collapse. You would do that? Harrison felt tears threatening again. You would let me sleep? You need rest, Mr. Cole. You have a funeral tomorrow. You have to be strong for that. Let me take care of Grace tonight. I promise I'll take good care of her. Harrison looked at his sleeping daughter. At this stranger who was not a stranger anymore. At the kindness being offered so freely. Every instinct told him to say yes. To accept. To let someone help. Okay, he said. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Simone smiled. It was the first smile Harrison had seen in days that reached someone's eyes. You're welcome. Now go sleep, Mr. Cole. I've got her. Harrison showed Simone to the guest room and brought in the bassinet. He gave her his phone number in case anything went wrong. Then he went to his own bedroom and lay down on his bed. Within minutes, for the first time since Rachel died, he fell into deep, dreamless sleep. Grace was safe. Someone had come to help. Maybe, just maybe, they would survive this after all. Harrison woke to silence. For a moment, panic seized him. Then he remembered. Simone. Grace was with Simone. He grabbed his phone and saw it was 7:30 a.m. He had slept for almost 8 hours straight. There were no missed calls or texts. He got up quickly and went to the guest room. The door was open. Inside, Simone sat in a chair by the window, holding Grace and gently rocking her. The early morning light made everything look soft and clean. Grace was awake, looking up at Simone with alert eyes. She looked better. Stronger. The change was remarkable. Good morning, Simone said quietly. She's been fed 3 times since you went to bed. She kept everything down. She's already looking healthier. Harrison felt a weight lift from his chest. She really is doing better. She's doing great, Simone confirmed. Babies bounce back fast when they get what they need. Grace is a fighter. She's going to be just fine. Harrison sat down on the edge of the bed. He rubbed his face with both hands. The funeral is at 2 this afternoon. I have no idea how I'm going to get through it. You'll get through it because you have to, Simone said gently. Because Grace needs you to. And because your wife would want you to honor her properly. I can stay here with Grace during the service if that would help. She should not be at a funeral at 4 days old anyway. The relief Harrison felt was enormous. You would do that? Stay with her while I'm gone? Of course. That's what I'm here for. Simone paused. Mr. Cole, we should talk about what happens after today. About the long-term plan. Harrison nodded. I know. This is temporary. You have your own life. Your own job. I cannot expect you to keep doing this. Actually, Simone said carefully, I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking I should move in here for a while. At least 3 months. Maybe longer if Grace needs it. Harrison stared at her. Move in? You mean live here? Grace needs to eat every 2 to 3 hours, day and night. She needs consistency. The same milk source so her digestion stays stable. If I'm going back and forth from my apartment, trying to fit this around my hospital schedule, it will not work well. But if I'm here full-time, focusing completely on Grace, she'll thrive. I already talked to my supervisor this morning. She's willing to give me a leave of absence. She understands the situation. But your life, Harrison protested. Your apartment, your job, everything. You cannot just put it all on hold for us. Simone looked down at Grace. Mr. Cole, I need this as much as Grace does. Maybe more. When Andre died, I wanted to die too. The grief was so heavy I could barely breathe. I went back to work too soon trying to pretend I was okay. But I was not okay. Every baby I saw reminded me of what I lost. Then I heard about Grace. About a newborn who needed exactly what my body was making for my son. Felt like maybe there was a reason. Maybe Andre's death was not completely meaningless if his mother could save another baby. She looked up, meeting Harrison's eyes. Let me do this. Let me move in and take care of Grace properly. I'll handle all the feedings. You can handle everything else. We'll be a team. Partners in keeping your daughter healthy and happy. Please. Harrison thought about it. It was irregular. People would talk. His in-laws would probably have opinions. But Grace was thriving. After 3 days of hell, his daughter was finally okay. How could he say no to the thing that was saving her life? What would you need? He asked. To make this work properly? Just the guest room and access to the kitchen. I'm a pretty simple person. I don't need much. Simone shifted Grace to her other shoulder. I'll need to go to my apartment and pack some things. But I can come back tonight if that works for you. Tonight is perfect, Harrison said. And Simone, I want to pay you. This is not charity. You're providing essential care for my daughter. Let me compensate you properly. Simone shook her head. I do not want your money, Mr. Cole. Please, Harrison insisted. You're giving up your job, your independence, your time. You're literally keeping my daughter alive. I cannot let you do this for free. It would not be right. They negotiated. Simone finally agreed to let Harrison cover her rent for the months she would be away from her apartment, plus a salary equivalent to what she made at the hospital. It was far less than Harrison wanted to pay, but Simone was firm. She was not doing this for money. Harrison's assistant Julie arrived at 9 to help him prepare for the funeral. When she met Simone and learned the plan, she immediately took charge of the logistics. Julie had been with Harrison for 6 years and ran his life with quiet efficiency. I'll make sure the guest room has everything you need, Julie told Simone. Anything special you want, just text me a list. I'll have it delivered today. I really do not need much, Simone said. Just basics. You're saving Grace's life, Julie said firmly. That means you get whatever makes you comfortable. No arguments. Harrison got ready for the funeral in a daze. He put on his black suit. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. 4 days ago he had been happy. Excited about becoming a father. In love with his wife. Now Rachel was dead and he was a single parent depending on a stranger's kindness to keep his baby alive. The funeral was brutal. Rachel's parents were there, red-eyed and shattered. Her sister could barely stand. Friends from college, from their neighborhood, from Rachel's work. All of them looking at Harrison with pity. Poor Harrison. Lost his wife. Left alone with a newborn. How will he manage? He got through it by thinking about Grace. About how she looked that morning, healthy and alert in Simone's arms. He got through it by reminding himself that his daughter needed him to be strong. Rachel would want him to be strong. The burial was worse. Watching Rachel's coffin being lowered into the ground felt impossible. Final. She was really gone. His wife. His best friend. The woman he thought he would grow old with. Gone at 29 years old because of a random blood clot no one could have prevented. Harrison's mother held his hand during the burial. Grace needs you, she whispered. Hold on to that. Hold on to your daughter. He did. He held on to the image of Grace in his mind and got through the worst day of his life. When he got back to the penthouse that evening, Simone was there with Grace. The baby was clean, fed, and sleeping peacefully. The sight of them together made Harrison's chest ache. How was it? Simone asked softly. Horrible, Harrison said honestly. But necessary. How was Grace? Perfect. She ate well. She's been awake and alert between feedings. She's even more active than this morning. She's getting stronger fast. Harrison looked at his daughter. At this tiny person who was half Rachel. The last piece of his wife that remained in the world. She really is going to be okay, is not she? She really is, Simone confirmed. Babies are resilient. She's going to grow up healthy and strong. I promise you that. Harrison sat down, suddenly exhausted. Thank you for staying. For doing this. I know I keep saying it, but I mean it. Thank you. You do not have to keep thanking me, Simone said. We're helping each other. That's how this works. Over the next few days they established a routine. Simone handled all of Grace's feedings and most of her care. Harrison changed diapers, did laundry, managed the household. Julie coordinated everything else, making sure they had what they needed. The penthouse settled into a rhythm. Grace gained weight steadily. By the end of the first week, she was back up to her birth weight. By the end of the second week, she was chubby and happy, smiling and cooing. The transformation was remarkable. Harrison returned to work part-time, managing his company from home as much as possible. He wanted to be there for Grace. To see her growing. To watch this miracle that Simone had made possible. The arrangement worked. Against all odds, despite the tragedy and grief, they were making it work. Harrison's daughter was thriving. And slowly, very slowly, Harrison himself started to feel like maybe he could survive this after all. 3 weeks passed. The penthouse that had been so silent and empty after Rachel's death became a place of life again. Grace's baby sounds filled the rooms. Simone's gentle humming during feedings. The soft pad of footsteps during late-night care. Harrison found himself listening for these sounds when he was in his home office working. They made the space feel less lonely. Grace was thriving. She had gained over a pound and was alert, active, and clearly healthy. Her pediatrician was amazed by the turnaround. At her 3-week checkup, the doctor looked at Harrison with open surprise. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, Dr. Chin said. Grace is perfect. Completely healthy. I have never seen such a dramatic improvement in such a short time. Harrison glanced at Simone, who had come along to the appointment. I have good help. Dr. Chin looked at Simone with curiosity but did not ask questions. The medical world was small. She probably knew or had guessed the arrangement. But she said nothing except, Grace is lucky to have such dedicated care. The routine they had developed was working smoothly. Simone fed Grace every 3 hours during the day and every 4 hours at night now that the baby was bigger. Between feedings, Simone rested or read while Grace napped. Harrison worked from home most days, coming out of his office to check on them, to hold his daughter, to give Simone breaks. They ate dinner together most evenings. Julie arranged for a chef service to deliver healthy meals, which was good because neither Harrison nor Simone had the energy to cook. They would sit at the dining table with Grace and her bouncer nearby, eating and talking about their days. Harrison learned about Simone's life. She grew up in Brooklyn, the youngest of 4 children. Her parents were both teachers, retired now. She had always wanted to be a nurse, specifically in maternal health. She had worked at Metropolitan Hospital for 5 years before Andre's death. I loved labor and delivery, Simone said one evening. Being there when babies are born, helping new mothers figure out breastfeeding, supporting families during those first precious hours. It felt meaningful. Like I was doing something that mattered. You still are, Harrison said. You're doing the most meaningful work possible. You are keeping Grace alive. Simone smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. I know. But it is different when it is your own baby. When Andre died, I thought I would never feel joy about babies again. I thought I would have to quit maternal nursing because it would hurt too much. What changed? Grace changed, Simone said simply. She looked over at the baby, who was sleeping peacefully in her bouncer. When I first held her, when she latched and started feeding, I felt something break open inside me. Like maybe there was still a reason to keep going. Like maybe I could turn my grief into something that helped someone else. Harrison nodded. You did that. You're doing that every day. They talked about Rachel sometimes. At first, Harrison had worried it would be awkward, but Simone asked questions gently and listened without judgment. Harrison found himself telling stories about his wife. About how they met in college. About their wedding. About how excited Rachel had been during the pregnancy. She picked out every detail of the nursery, Harrison said, gesturing toward the room decorated in soft yellows and whites. She spent hours researching the safest crib, the best monitor, the perfect rocking chair. She read every baby book published in the last decade. She was so ready to be a mom. She would be proud of you, Simone said quietly. Of how you're raising Grace. How you're honoring her memory by being such a devoted father. I'm not doing anything special. I am just trying not to fail completely. You are not failing at all, Simone said firmly. You are exhausted and grieving and still showing up every day for your daughter. That is not failing. That is love. The late-night conversations became Harrison's favorite part of the day. Simone usually fed Grace around 11 p.m. and then again around 3 a.m. Harrison had started joining her for those late feedings. He would sit in the nursery with them, talking quietly while Simone nursed Grace. You do not have to stay up with us, Simone told him during one of these sessions. You need your sleep for work. I want to be here, Harrison said. These are the only times Grace is calm and quiet enough for me to just look at her. During the day she is always active or crying or needing something. But right now she is peaceful. I like watching her like this. Simone adjusted Grace in her arms. She looks like your wife. I have seen the photos around the apartment. Same nose, same chin. She does, Harrison agreed. He felt the familiar ache in his chest, but it was gentler now. Less sharp. Sometimes I look at Grace and I see Rachel so clearly it takes my breath away. But other times Grace is just herself. Just my daughter. That is how it should be, Simone said. She is her own person. She will grow up knowing about her mother, honoring her memory but being herself. That is the gift you will give her. These conversations helped Harrison process his grief. He had not realized how much he needed to talk, to remember, to work through the loss. Simone listened without trying to fix anything or offer empty platitudes. She just listened and understood. One night, about a month after Simone moved in, Grace was fussy. She had eaten but was fighting sleep, making little frustrated sounds. Simone walked with her, bouncing gently, but Grace continued to fuss. Here, let me try, Harrison said. He took Grace and held her against his chest, walking around the nursery. He started humming. He did not know what made him do it, but he found himself humming an old lullaby his own mother had sung to him. Grace quieted immediately. Her little body relaxed. Within minutes she was asleep. Simone watched from the rocking chair. When Harrison looked over at her, she was smiling. You are really good at this. Being a dad. I feel like I have no idea what I am doing most of the time. That is how all parents feel, Simone said. But look at her. She is calm. She trusts you. That means you are doing it exactly right. Harrison looked down at his sleeping daughter. Maybe Simone was right. Maybe he was not failing. Maybe he was actually managing to be the father Grace needed. As the weeks passed, Harrison noticed that the grief was still there, but it was not drowning him anymore. He could think about Rachel without breaking down. He could look at their wedding photos without feeling like he might die from the pain. The loss would always be there, but it was becoming something he could carry instead of something that buried him. Grace continued to grow and develop. She started smiling real smiles, not just gas reflexes. She would lock eyes with Harrison or Simone and beam at them, her whole face lighting up. Those smiles made everything worthwhile. She smiled at me today, Harrison told Simone one evening. You felt almost giddy. A real smile. She looked right at me and smiled. She loves you, Simone said. Babies know who takes care of them. Who loves them. She knows her daddy. Harrison felt warmth spread through his chest. He was Grace's daddy. No matter what else happened, no matter how hard things got, he was her father and she was his daughter, and that would never change. The arrangement was supposed to be temporary. 3 months, they had said. But neither of them talked about when it would end. The question hung unspoken between them. What would happen when Grace no longer needed nursing? When she could eat solid foods and drink from bottles? What then? Harrison did not want to think about it. Did not want to imagine Simone leaving. The penthouse felt right with her in it. Grace was happy. He was managing. Why change something that was working? But he knew eventually they would have to address it. Eventually, the temporary arrangement would have to become permanent, or it would have to end. Harrison was not ready to face that choice. So he pushed it to the back of his mind and focused on the present. On Grace's smiles. On Simone's kindness. On the rhythm they had found together. For now, that was enough. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Harrison was in his home office on a video conference when Julie knocked and stuck her head in. Her expression was tense. Your in-laws just called, she said quietly. Rachel's parents. They are at the airport. They're coming here. They'll be at your building in about an hour. Harrison felt his stomach drop. Donald and Patricia Morrison. Rachel's parents. They had been at the funeral, of course, but they had flown back to Boston immediately after. Harrison had talked to them a few times on the phone, brief and painful conversations. But they had not visited. Had not asked to see Grace. Until now. Did they say why they are coming? Harrison asked. No. Just that they needed to see you. That it was important. Julie's expression said she had a bad feeling about this. So did Harrison. He ended his meeting early and went to find Simone. She was in the living room with Grace, who was on a play mat reaching for dangling toys. At 2 months old, Grace was alert and active, grabbing at things and cooing constantly. My in-laws are coming, Harrison said. Rachel's parents. They will be here in an hour. Simone looked up, concern crossing her face. Do you want me to take Grace to my room? Give you privacy? No, Harrison said immediately. No, stay. Please. They should meet you. They should see how well Grace is doing. How good you are with her. Simone nodded slowly. Okay. If you are sure. Harrison was not sure about anything, but he wanted Simone there. Wanted her support. The hour passed too quickly. When the doorbell rang, Harrison took a deep breath and answered it. Donald and Patricia Morrison stood in the hallway. They were both in their early 60s, well-dressed and composed. Patricia's eyes were red-rimmed but dry. Donald's jaw was set in a hard line. They looked like people preparing for battle. Donald. Patricia, Harrison said. Come in. They entered the penthouse and looked around. Their expressions were carefully neutral. Harrison led them to the living room where Simone was standing now, holding Grace. This is Simone Davis, Harrison said. She has been helping me care for Grace. Simone, these are Rachel's parents. It is nice to meet you, Simone said politely. She shifted Grace slightly. Would you like to hold your granddaughter? Patricia's composure cracked. She looked at Grace with such longing and pain that Harrison felt it like a physical blow. May I? Of course. Simone carefully transferred Grace to Patricia's arms. Patricia held the baby close, tears streaming down her face. Oh, she looks just like Rachel. Just like my baby girl. Donald stood stiffly beside his wife, also looking at Grace. His expression was harder to read. After a moment, he turned to Harrison. We need to talk, Donald said. Privately. Harrison glanced at Simone. She nodded and gently took Grace back from Patricia. I will be in the nursery if you need anything. Once Simone was gone, the three of them sat down. Patricia was still crying quietly. Donald was rigid in his chair. We came to talk about Grace's future, Donald said without preamble. About what is best for her. Harrison felt ice form in his chest. Grace is doing very well. She is healthy and happy. I am taking good care of her. With the help of a stranger you hired, Patricia said. Her voice was thick with tears. A woman we have never met. A nurse you brought in to breastfeed our granddaughter. Simone saved Grace's life, Harrison said firmly. The formula was making Grace sick. She was losing weight dangerously fast. Simone offered to help and Grace thrived immediately. She is exactly what Grace needed. But this is not sustainable, Donald said. This arrangement cannot go on forever. What happens when this woman leaves? What then? We will figure it out when the time comes, Harrison said. He kept his voice level. Right now Grace is healthy. That is what matters. What matters is that Grace has proper care, Patricia said. Stable care. A real family environment. Harrison's hands clenched. She has that. She has me. She has a home and people who love her. You are a single father, Donald said bluntly. You have a high-pressure job. You travel for business. How do you plan to raise a baby alone? I am managing. I have help. I am making it work. For now, Patricia said. But Harrison, be realistic. You cannot do this long-term. You cannot give Grace what she needs. Donald leaned forward. We want to take Grace back to Boston with us. We can raise her properly. Give her a stable home with 2 parents. We have the time and resources to devote to her completely. The words hit Harrison like a punch. No. Absolutely not. Harrison, be reasonable, Patricia pleaded. We are not trying to take her from you. We just want what is best for her. You could visit whenever you want. You would still be her father. But she would be with family. With people who can care for her properly. I am her family, Harrison said. His voice was rising. I am her father. Grace is my daughter and she is staying with me. You cannot do this alone, Donald insisted. You are setting yourself up to fail. Setting Grace up to suffer. Grace is not suffering. She is thriving. Go ask her pediatrician. Go look at her weight charts. She is perfect. Healthy. Happy. She does not need to be taken from her father. Rachel would want what is best for her daughter, Patricia said. Fresh tears ran down her face. She would want Grace to be raised properly, to have everything she needs. Rachel would want Grace with me, Harrison said. His own voice broke. She would want her daughter with her father. In her home. Not shipped off to Boston. We are not trying to hurt you, Donald said. But his tone was hard. But if necessary, we will pursue legal custody. We will do what we have to do to protect our granddaughter. The threat hung in the air. Harrison stood up, his whole body shaking. Get out. Harrison, Patricia started. Get out of my home, Harrison said. Grace is my daughter. She stays with me. If you want to be part of her life, you are welcome to visit. But if you try to take her from me, you will never see her again. I will fight you with every resource I have. Do you understand me? Donald stood as well. We will give you time to think about this. But we are not going away. Grace deserves better than what you can provide alone. They left. Harrison stood in the middle of his living room, breathing hard, his hands shaking with rage and fear. After a moment, Simone appeared from the nursery, still holding Grace. I heard, she said quietly. I'm sorry. That was awful. Harrison looked at her. At his daughter safe in her arms. They want to take her. They actually think they can take my baby from me? They cannot, Simone said firmly. You are her father. You have legal custody. They cannot just take her. They said they would get lawyers. They could try to prove I am unfit. That I cannot care for her properly. Harrison ran his hands through his hair. What if they are right? What if I cannot do this? Stop, Simone said. She walked over and stood in front of him. Look at Grace. Really look at her. Harrison looked at his daughter. Grace was calm, comfortable, her eyes bright and curious. She is healthy and happy, Simone continued. She is gaining weight perfectly. She smiles and coos. She is developing exactly as she should. That is because of you. Because you got her the help she needed. Because you are devoted to her. You are not failing. You are succeeding. Do not let their grief and anger make you doubt that. Harrison felt his eyes burn with tears. I cannot lose her. I already lost Rachel. I cannot lose Grace too. You will not, Simone said with complete conviction. I promise you. We will not let that happen. We. Harrison looked at her. Yes, we, Simone said. I'm not going anywhere. If your in-laws want to prove you are unfit, they will have to explain why Grace is so healthy under your care. They will have to deal with me testifying about what an amazing father you are. They will have to face the fact that Grace is thriving. They cannot win this fight because you are not doing anything wrong. Harrison felt something settle in his chest. Simone was right. Grace was fine. Better than fine. The Morrisons were grieving and lashing out, but they had no real grounds to take custody. He just had to hold firm. Thank you, he said, for having my back. For being here. Always, Simone said. Then she handed Grace to him. Here. Hold your daughter. Remember what you are fighting for. Harrison took Grace and held her close. She grabbed at his shirt with her tiny hands and made happy sounds. This was his baby. His daughter. No one was taking her from him. Not the Morrisons. Not anyone. He would fight for Grace with everything he had. And with Simone beside him, he knew they would win. The threat from the Morrisons hung over the household for days. Harrison consulted with lawyers who assured him that without evidence of neglect or abuse, the grandparents had no legal standing to take custody. But the fear remained. Every time his phone rang, Harrison tensed, wondering if it was them again. Simone watched him carefully during this time. She could see the stress eating at him. One evening, after Grace had been fed and was sleeping peacefully, Simone found Harrison standing at the window again, staring out at the city like he had that first terrible night. You need to stop worrying, Simone said gently. She came to stand beside him. Grace is safe. The Morrisons cannot take her. They could try, Harrison said. They could make this a long, ugly legal battle. Drag Grace through court proceedings. Make everything horrible. Then we will deal with that if it happens, Simone said. But tearing yourself apart with worry now does not help anyone. Least of all Grace. She needs her father present, not consumed with anxiety. Harrison turned to look at her. How do you do it? How do you stay so calm? I have had practice, Simone said. A shadow crossed her face. I have been through worse. They had never talked in detail about Andre. About Simone's loss. Harrison realized he had been so wrapped up in his own grief and fear that he had not really asked about hers. Will you tell me? Harrison asked. About what happened. You do not have to if it is too painful. But I want to understand. I want to know your story. Simone was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded and went to sit on the couch. Harrison followed. They sat in the dim living room with only the city lights coming through the windows. His name was Andre, Simone started. Andre Davis. I carried him for 40 weeks. Everything was perfect. Every ultrasound, every checkup. The pregnancy was textbook normal. I was excited. Scared but excited. She paused, gathering herself. Harrison waited. I was with someone then. Kevin. We had been together for 2 years. When I got pregnant, he proposed. Said all the right things about wanting to be a family. We started planning the wedding for after the baby was born. I thought everything was falling into place. What happened? I went into labor on a Tuesday morning. It was going well at first. But then Andre's heart rate started dropping. The doctors tried to figure out why. They did an emergency C-section. When they got him out, Simone's voice broke. The cord had been wrapped around his neck. Triple nuchal cord, they called it. 3 loops. It must have tightened during labor. He was already gone. Harrison felt the grief hit him like a wave. Simone, I am so sorry. They let me hold him, she continued. Tears ran down her face, but her voice stayed steady. He was perfect. Beautiful. He looked like he was sleeping. I sat there holding my son's body for hours. I could not let him go. Kevin was there, but he did not hold Andre. He just stood in the corner looking uncomfortable. He did not hold his son? No. He said it was too hard. That he could not bear it. Looking back, I should have known then. Should have seen what was coming. Simone wiped her eyes. We buried Andre in Brooklyn near my parents' home. Small funeral. Just family. Kevin barely spoke during it. 3 days later he told me he could not do this. Could not be with me anymore. He said being around me reminded him too much of what happened. He gave back the ring and moved out. Harrison felt anger rise in his chest. He left you? Right after you lost your baby? He did. He was gone within a week. I have not heard from him since. Simone looked down at her hands. That was almost 3 months ago. I went back to work too soon, trying to stay busy, trying not to think about it. But working in labor and delivery, seeing healthy babies being born, it was torture. Every baby I helped deliver, I thought, why them and not Andre? Why did their baby live and mine died? That must have been unbearable. It was. I was barely functioning. Then one day I heard the nurses talking about you. About Rachel dying and Grace being sick. About how you were desperate and did not know what to do. About how Grace could not keep formula down and was losing weight. I thought about it all day. Could not stop thinking about it. Simone looked up, meeting Harrison's eyes. My body was still making milk for Andre. I would have to pump and dump it because there was no baby to feed. It felt wrong. All this milk that my son needed just wasted. So when I heard about Grace, something clicked. Maybe this was why. Maybe the reason I could not just dry up was because somewhere out there was a baby who needed exactly what I had. So you came here. I came here. It was against protocol. I could have gotten in trouble. But I did not care. I needed to do something good with all this pain. Needed to make Andre's death mean something. Her voice strengthened. When I fed Grace that first time and she latched and drank, I felt something shift inside me. Like maybe I could survive this. Like maybe there was still a reason to keep living. Harrison reached over and took her hand. You saved Grace's life. You know that, right? She would have died without you. Or at best, she would have ended up hospitalized with tubes and interventions and trauma. You gave her the gentle start she needed. You gave me my daughter. And you gave me a reason to get up in the morning, Simone said. Taking care of Grace, being here, it has been healing me as much as it has been helping you. When I hold her, I think about Andre. I think about what it would have been like to hold my son and feel him nursing. But instead of it being only painful, there is also joy. Because Grace is alive. Because I am helping her thrive. Because something good came from all the loss. They sat in silence for a moment, holding hands in the darkness. Two people who had lost everything, finding a way forward together. Your ex was a fool, Harrison said finally. You deserved so much better than someone who would abandon you in your darkest moment. Maybe, Simone said. But if Kevin had stayed, I would not have been free to come here. Would not have been able to help Grace. So maybe it worked out the way it was supposed to. Do you really believe that? That things work out the way they are supposed to? Simone thought about it. I do not know if I believe in fate or destiny or any of that. But I believe in finding meaning where we can. I believe that we can take terrible things and use them to do good. That is what I am trying to do. Honor Andre's memory by saving another baby. By helping a father who was as lost as I was. Harrison felt his throat tighten. You are remarkable. You know that. I am just doing what feels right, Simone said. She squeezed his hand and then let go, standing up. We should both try to sleep. Grace will be up for her night feeding in a few hours. Harrison watched her walk toward the guest room. At the doorway she paused and looked back. Harrison, for what it is worth, Rachel would be proud of you. Of how you are loving Grace. Of how you are fighting for her. You are being exactly the father your daughter needs. Thank you, Harrison said. His voice was rough with emotion. And Simone? Andre would be proud of you too. Of how you turned your grief into something that helps others. That takes real strength. Simone smiled. It was sad but genuine. Then she went into her room and closed the door quietly. Harrison sat alone in the living room for a while longer. He thought about loss and pain and how people survive impossible things. He thought about Simone's courage in coming to his door that first night. About how one act of kindness could change everything. Grace was alive because Simone had been brave enough to offer help. And Simone was healing because she had been generous enough to give it. They had saved each other in ways neither of them had expected. Harrison finally went to bed. For the first time since the Morrisons' visit, he felt calm. Whatever challenges came, he and Simone would face them together. They were a team now. Partners in survival. And together they were stronger than they had ever been alone. Grace turned 3 months old on a sunny Saturday in May. Harrison woke that morning to the sound of her babbling coming from the nursery. He got up and found Simone already there, changing Grace's diaper while talking to her in that gentle voice she always used with the baby. Good morning, sweet girl. Did you sleep well? You are getting so big. Look at those chubby little legs. Grace was cooing back, waving her arms, clearly delighted with the attention. When she saw Harrison in the doorway, she gave him a huge smile that showed her gums. She is in a good mood this morning, Harrison said. Simone looked up and smiled. She is always in a good mood lately. 3 months old today. Can you believe it? Harrison could not believe it. 3 months ago, Rachel had just died and Grace had been starving. Now here they were. Grace healthy and happy. The grief still there but manageable. Life moving forward despite everything. I was thinking we should celebrate, Harrison said. Have a little party. Nothing big. Just us. Maybe invite Julie. Take some photos of Grace. That sounds nice, Simone agreed. She finished dressing Grace in a bright blue onesie with little clouds on it. I can make a cake. Something simple but special. They spent the day celebrating Grace's 3-month milestone. Julie came over with balloons and a stuffed giraffe. They took dozens of photos of Grace, who cooperated beautifully, smiling and being adorable. Simone made a small cake. They sang to Grace, who looked utterly confused but happy about all the attention. It was a good day. A normal day. The kind of day Harrison had not thought he would ever have again. That evening, after Julie left and Grace was asleep, Harrison and Simone sat together in the living room. They had fallen into the habit of spending time together after Grace went down for the night, talking and watching TV or just sitting in comfortable silence. She is really amazing, Harrison said, looking at the photos on his phone. Grace. She is just perfect. She is, Simone agreed. She was curled up on the other end of the couch, also scrolling through photos on her phone. I cannot believe how much she has grown. How much she has changed. Thanks to you, Harrison said. All of this, everything good that has happened, it is because you were willing to help us. Simone looked over at him. We have had this conversation before. You do not need to keep thanking me. I know. But it is true. Harrison set down his phone. Simone, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy here? Living with us? Taking care of Grace? Is this what you want? Simone was quiet for a moment, considering the question carefully. Yes, she said finally. I am happy here. Happier than I have been in a long time. Why are you asking? Because the arrangement was supposed to be temporary. 3 months. And here we are at 3 months. But Grace still needs you. Still needs breast milk for at least another few months, probably longer. And I. Harrison stopped. He did not know how to finish that sentence. And you what? Simone asked gently. I do not want you to leave, Harrison admitted. I know that is selfish. You have your own life. Your own apartment. Your career to get back to. But I do not know what I would do without you. Grace would miss you. I would miss you. He looked at her and felt something shift in his chest. When had this happened? When had Simone become essential to his life? Not just as Grace's caretaker, but as a person he looked forward to seeing every day. A person whose smile made him feel lighter. Whose presence made the penthouse feel like a home instead of just a space where he existed. I would miss you too, Simone said softly. Both of you. This has become my home. You have become my family. The word hung between them. Family. That was what they had become, was it not? The three of them. Not a conventional family, but a family nonetheless. Harrison opened his mouth to say something more, but his phone rang. It was his mother. He had been meaning to call her all day. Hi, Mom, he answered. Harrison, darling. Happy 3 months to Grace. I've been thinking about you all day. How are you doing? They talked for a while. Harrison's mother wanted to know every detail about Grace's development. She also asked about Simone, whom she had met briefly at the funeral. She is still there helping with Grace? His mother asked. That is wonderful. How is that arrangement working out? Really well, Harrison said. He glanced at Simone, who was giving him privacy by scrolling on her phone. Grace is thriving. We are managing. Good. I'm glad you have helped, darling. Raising a baby alone is hard enough without trying to do it completely solo. His mother paused. Harrison, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you have feelings for Simone? The question caught Harrison off guard. What? Why would you ask that? Because I saw how you looked at her at the funeral. And I hear it in your voice when you talk about her. There is something there. I am your mother. I know these things. Harrison felt his face heat. It has only been 3 months since Rachel died. I should not be having feelings for anyone. Says who? His mother asked gently. Grief does not follow a timeline, Harrison. Neither does love. If you care about this woman, if she makes you and Grace happy, why deny it? Because it feels wrong. Like I am betraying Rachel somehow. Rachel is gone, sweetheart. She would want you to be happy. She would want Grace to have a mother figure, someone who loves her. If Simone is that person, you should not feel guilty about it. After the call ended, Harrison sat thinking about his mother's words. Did he have feelings for Simone? Real romantic feelings? He thought about how he looked forward to seeing her every morning. How her laugh made him smile. How capable and kind she was. How beautiful she looked holding Grace. How comfortable he felt talking to her late at night. How the idea of her leaving made his chest hurt. Yes, he had feelings for her. Deep feelings. Maybe even love. The realization terrified him. It was too soon. Too complicated. What if Simone did not feel the same way? What if pursuing anything romantic ruined their partnership and drove her away? He could not risk that. Grace needed Simone. He needed Simone. So he said nothing. He pushed the feelings down and tried to ignore them. But they did not go away. They just grew stronger. Simone, for her part, was dealing with her own confusion. She had noticed things shifting between her and Harrison. The way he looked at her sometimes. The way her heart sped up when he smiled. The way she found herself thinking about him even when he was not in the room. She cared about him. More than she should. More than was probably wise given their situation. But how could she not? Harrison was devoted to Grace. He was kind and thoughtful. He listened when she talked. He made her feel valued and appreciated. And he was handsome. She had noticed that from the beginning but tried not to think about it. Now she could not stop thinking about it. About how nice it felt when they accidentally touched. About how much she wanted to reach out and take his hand sometimes. About how she wished she had the right to hug him when he looked sad. But she did not have that right. She was the help. The nurse who lived with them temporarily. She could not cross that line. Could not risk making things awkward. Grace needed her. Harrison depended on her. She would not ruin that by developing inappropriate feelings. Except the feelings were already there. Already growing. Already becoming impossible to ignore. Julie, who saw everything, finally pulled Simone aside one day while Harrison was in his office. You two need to talk, Julie said bluntly. About what? Simone asked, playing dumb. About the fact that you are both clearly in love with each other and dancing around it like scared teenagers. Simone felt her face heat. I do not know what you mean. Yes, you do. I see how you look at him. I see how he looks at you. You are good together. You make each other happy. Grace is thriving. Why are you both fighting this? Because it is complicated, Simone said. His wife just died. I am here to help with the baby. We cannot just suddenly become romantic. It would be inappropriate. Why? Julie challenged. Who says? You are two adults who care about each other. You have been through trauma together. You have built a life together. Why should you deny yourselves happiness because of some arbitrary rule about timing? What if it ruins everything? What if we try to be more than friends and it does not work and I have to leave? Grace would lose me. Harrison would lose the help he needs. And what if it does work? Julie countered. What if you could be a family? Really and truly? Would that not be worth the risk? Simone did not have an answer. Julie left her to think about it. That night, Simone almost said something. She and Harrison were sitting together after Grace went to sleep as usual. He was telling her a funny story about a meeting that had gone wrong. She was laughing. And she looked at him and thought, I love you. I love your kindness and your dedication and the way you love your daughter. But she said nothing. Because the fear was too strong. The fear of losing what they had. The fear of making things awkward. The fear of hoping for something that might not be possible. So they both stayed silent. Both loving each other. Both too scared to take the leap. For now it was enough to be near each other. To share these quiet moments. To build this life together even if it was not quite the life either of them secretly wanted. But the feelings were there. Growing stronger every day. And eventually something would have to give. Grace spiked a fever on a Wednesday afternoon. Simone was holding her, about to start a feeding, when she felt how hot the baby's skin was. She immediately got the thermometer. 101.5 degrees. Harrison, Simone called out. Her voice was urgent but calm. I need you. Harrison came running from his office. What is wrong? Grace has a fever. We need to call the pediatrician right now. The pediatrician's office told them to bring Grace to the emergency room immediately. Any fever in a baby under 3 months was serious. At 3 months it was still concerning. They needed to rule out serious infections. Harrison grabbed the diaper bag while Simone kept Grace wrapped in a light blanket. The baby was fussy, crying in a way that sounded different from her normal cries. Weaker. More distressed. The drive to the hospital felt endless. Harrison drove while Simone sat in the back with Grace, monitoring her breathing and temperature. By the time they arrived, Grace's fever had climbed to 102 degrees. The emergency room moved fast. They took Grace back immediately, starting tests. Blood work. Urine sample. Chest x-ray. The doctor, a woman named Dr. Phillips, explained that they needed to rule out sepsis, meningitis and pneumonia. Babies this young cannot fight infections well, Dr. Phillips said. We take all fevers very seriously. She will need to be admitted for observation and 4 antibiotics while we wait for cultures to grow. Harrison felt like he was going to be sick. Antibiotics? You think she has a serious infection? We do not know yet. But we cannot take chances. The antibiotics are a precaution until we know more. They admitted Grace to the pediatric ward. A nurse started an 4 in her tiny hand. Grace screamed through the procedure. Harrison had to leave the room because he could not stand to watch his daughter in pain. Simone stayed, holding Grace's other hand, talking to her gently through it all. Once the 4 was in and the antibiotics started, Grace calmed slightly. But she was clearly sick. Her breathing was fast and shallow. She would not eat. She just lay there, small and fragile, looking so much sicker than she had just hours ago. The first night was brutal. Harrison and Simone took turns sitting with Grace, monitoring her breathing, watching for any changes. The nurses came in every hour to check vitals. No one slept. By morning, Grace was worse. Her fever had climbed to 103 despite medication. The chest x-ray came back showing signs of pneumonia. The doctors started additional antibiotics and respiratory treatments. She is fighting it, Dr. Phillips said. But it is a significant infection. She will need to stay here for several days at least. Harrison stood by Grace's crib, watching his daughter struggle to breathe. It was his worst nightmare come true. After everything they had been through, after Grace getting healthy and strong, now this. She could die. Babies died from infections like this all the time. I cannot lose her, Harrison said. His voice broke. I cannot. I already lost Rachel. I cannot lose Grace too. Simone came and stood beside him. She took his hand and held it tight. Grace is strong. She is a fighter. She will get through this. What if she does not? What if this is it? Then we will face it together, Simone said firmly. But I believe she is going to be okay. Look at her. She is fighting. She has not given up. On the second day, Donald and Patricia Morrison showed up at the hospital. Someone must have told them. They pushed into Grace's room without knocking. What happened? Patricia demanded. Her face was pale. Why is our granddaughter in the hospital? She has pneumonia, Harrison said. He was too tired to be diplomatic. It is being treated. How did this happen? Donald asked. His tone was accusing. How did a healthy baby suddenly get pneumonia? Babies get sick sometimes, Dr. Phillips said calmly. She had been in the room adjusting Grace's oxygen. It happens. There is no negligence here. We want to see her medical records, Donald said. We want to verify she was being properly cared for before this happened. She was, Simone said. Her voice was cold. Grace has been thriving. She is above the growth curve for her age. She has met every developmental milestone early. She has been given excellent care. Patricia looked at Simone as if seeing her for the first time. Who are you to speak about my granddaughter's care? I am the person who feeds her every few hours, Simone said evenly. The person who holds her when she cries. The person who knows every sound she makes and what it means. I have been caring for Grace since she was 3 days old. So yes, I get to speak about her care. The tension in the room was thick. Dr. Phillips cleared her throat. I need everyone to leave except the parents. This baby needs rest and quiet, not arguments. I am her father, Harrison said. I am staying. I am her grandmother, Patricia said. I have rights. You are visitors, Dr. Phillips said firmly. You can come back during visiting hours. Right now you need to leave. The Morrisons left, but not before Donald promised they would be back. Once they were gone, Harrison collapsed into a chair. This is what they wanted, he said. They will use this to prove I am unfit. That Grace is not safe with me. Grace got sick, Simone said. She knelt beside his chair. Babies get sick. It has nothing to do with your parenting. Any doctor will tell them that. But Harrison could not shake the fear. The Morrisons would twist this somehow. Would use it against him. Would try to take Grace. On the third day, Grace turned a corner. Her fever broke. Her breathing eased. She started eating again, nursing from Simone weakly but steadily. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. The antibiotics are working, Dr. Phillips said. She is responding well. If she continues improving, she can go home in another day or two. Harrison felt relief so intense it made him dizzy. Grace was going to be okay. She was going to survive this. Simone cried. She held Grace and cried tears of pure relief and joy. I told you, she said to the baby. I told you that you are a fighter. You are so strong, sweet girl. So strong. That afternoon, while Grace was sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, Harrison and Simone sat together in the chairs by her crib. They were both exhausted, running on adrenaline and caffeine. I could not have done this without you, Harrison said. These past few days. I would have fallen apart. No, you would not have, Simone said. You are stronger than you think. I am only strong because you are here. Because I am not alone. Harrison looked at her. Really looked at her. At this woman who had given up her own life to care for his daughter. Who had stood beside him through every crisis. Who had become essential to his existence. Simone, I need to tell you something. What? But before he could speak, his phone rang. The lawyers. The Morrisons had officially filed for custody. They were claiming Harrison was negligent. That Grace's hospitalization proved he could not care for her properly. The fight had begun. The custody battle consumed everything. Lawyers, meetings, documentation. The Morrisons were serious. They had hired a top family law firm and were pushing hard for custody of Grace. Their argument was that Harrison was a single father with a demanding job who could not provide the stable home environment Grace needed. Harrison's lawyers were confident he would win. Grace had been thriving under his care. Her hospitalization for pneumonia was documented as a normal childhood illness, not the result of neglect. Multiple doctors were willing to testify about the excellent care Grace received. But it was still stressful. Still terrifying. The idea that a judge could decide Harrison was not fit to raise his own daughter kept him up at night. Through it all, Simone was his rock. She documented everything about Grace's care. Every feeding, every milestone, every doctor's visit. She agreed to testify if needed. She stood firmly by Harrison's side, unwavering in her support. They will not win, she kept telling him. Grace is healthy and happy. Any judge who sees her will know you are a great father. 3 weeks after Grace came home from the hospital, the preliminary hearing arrived. Harrison had to go to court and face the Morrisons in front of a judge. His lawyers advised him to bring evidence of Grace's well-being. He brought photos, medical records, and Simone. Simone took the stand and answered questions about her role in Grace's care. She was calm, articulate, and completely convincing. She described Harrison as a devoted, loving father who had sought out the best possible care for his daughter. She detailed Grace's health, growth, and development. She made it clear that Grace was thriving. The judge listened carefully. Then he looked at the Morrisons' lawyer. Do you have any evidence of actual neglect or abuse? The judge asked. No, Your Honor. But we believe Mr. Cole cannot provide long-term stability. Based on what? The fact that he hired a qualified nurse to help care for his newborn? That seems responsible, not negligent. The judge looked at Harrison. Mr. Cole, do you love your daughter? More than anything in this world, Harrison said. His voice was strong. Grace is everything to me. I would die before I let anything happen to her. And are you committed to raising her yourself? Yes, completely. The judge nodded. He looked at the Morrisons, who were sitting stiffly in the courtroom. I understand you are grieving the loss of your daughter, the judge said to them. And I understand you love your granddaughter. But grief is not grounds for taking a child from a fit parent. Mr. Cole has demonstrated that he is fully capable of caring for Grace. She is healthy, happy, and well cared for. Unless you can provide actual evidence of unfitness, this case is dismissed. The gavel came down. It was over. Harrison had won. The Morrisons left without speaking to him. Harrison and Simone walked out of the courthouse together, with Grace in her carrier. Once they were outside, Harrison stopped and just breathed. It is over, he said. They cannot take her. I told you, Simone said. She was smiling. You were never going to lose her. They went home. Grace needed to be fed. Life needed to continue. But something had shifted during the custody fight. Something important. Harrison had realized just how much Simone meant to him. How much he depended on her. How much he loved her. That evening, after Grace was asleep, Harrison found Simone in the kitchen making tea. He had been thinking all day about what to say. How to say it. Whether to say it at all. But his mother's words kept echoing in his head. If you care about this woman, why deny it? Simone, can we talk? Of course. She poured 2 cups of tea and they sat at the kitchen table. Harrison took a breath. I need to tell you something. I have been trying to find the right time, but I do not think there is ever a perfect time. So I am just going to say it. Simone waited, her dark eyes steady on his face. I love you, Harrison said. The words came out in a rush. I am in love with you. I know it is complicated. I know it has only been 4 months since Rachel died. I know our situation is unusual. But I cannot keep pretending I do not feel this way. You have become everything to me. You and Grace. You are my family. And I love you. I am in love with you. Simone stared at him. For a long moment, she did not say anything. Harrison's heart pounded. Had he just ruined everything? Then Simone smiled. It was the most beautiful smile Harrison had ever seen. I love you too, she said. I have been in love with you for weeks. Maybe months. I was just too scared to say anything. Harrison felt something break open in his chest. Relief. Joy. Hope. Really? You love me? Yes. So much. Simone reached across the table and took his hand. I love you. I love Grace. I love this life we have built together. I did not think I would ever feel this way again after Andre and Kevin. But you changed everything. You and Grace, you saved me as much as I saved you. Harrison stood up and pulled Simone to her feet. He wrapped his arms around her and held her close. She fit perfectly against him, her head on his shoulder, her arms around his waist. They stood like that for a long time, just holding each other. What do we do now? Simone asked softly. Where do we go from here? I do not want you to be just the nurse who lives here, Harrison said. I do not want this to be temporary anymore. I want you to stay. Not as hired help. As part of our family. As my partner. If you want that. I want that, Simone said. I want that so much. Harrison pulled back slightly so he could see her face. Then stay. Stay with us. Let us build a real life together. Let us be a family. Okay, Simone said. Tears ran down her face, but she was smiling. Okay. Yes. Harrison kissed her. It was gentle and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, both of them were crying and smiling at the same time. I need to do this properly, Harrison said. He wiped his eyes. I need to ask you correctly. Ask me what? Harrison got down on one knee. He did not have a ring. Had not planned this. But it felt right. Simone Davis, will you marry me? Will you let me love you for the rest of my life? Will you be Grace's mother and my wife? Simone put her hands over her mouth. Fresh tears streamed down her face. Yes. Yes, I will marry you. Harrison stood up and kissed her again. This time deeper, more passionate. They stood in the kitchen kissing like teenagers, laughing and crying at the same time. From the nursery, Grace started to fuss. They both pulled apart and laughed. She has perfect timing, Simone said. Just like her father, Harrison joked. They went together to the nursery. Simone picked up Grace and started to feed her while Harrison sat close, watching his daughter and the woman he loved. This was his family. This was everything he needed. "We should tell people," Harrison said. "My parents. Your parents. Julie." "Tomorrow," Simone said. "Tonight let us just be together. Just the three of us." So they sat in the nursery with Grace, planning their future, talking about everything they wanted. A real wedding. Simone officially adopting Grace. Maybe more children someday. A house with a yard where Grace could play. All of it. All the normal, beautiful things that made up a life. "I never thought I would be happy again," Harrison said quietly. "After Rachel died, I thought that was it. That any happiness I felt would always have grief attached to it." "The grief is still there," Simone said. "For both of us. Rachel. Andre. They will always be part of our story. But so is this," Harrison said, gesturing to the three of them. "This love. This family. This future." "Yes," Simone agreed. "This too." Grace finished feeding and fell asleep in Simone's arms. They put her in her crib and stood together, looking down at the baby who had brought them together. "She is going to have such a good life," Simone whispered. "So much love. So much happiness." "We all are," Harrison said. He put his arm around Simone and pulled her close. "We all are." They left the nursery and went to sit on the couch. For the first time since this all began, everything felt settled. Right. Complete. Harrison had lost his wife. Simone had lost her son. Both of them had thought their stories were over. But instead they had found each other. Found love in the midst of grief. Found a way to honor the people they had lost by building something beautiful for the future. It was not the life either of them had planned. But it was good. It was real. And it was theirs. 6 months later, on a beautiful October afternoon, Harrison and Simone stood in a garden surrounded by family and friends. Grace was 9 months old, dressed in a green velvet dress, being held by Harrison's mother. The baby was all smiles, babbling happily and waving at everyone. The wedding was simple but perfect. Simone wore a knee-length blue dress that made her look radiant. Harrison wore a suit in dark maroon. They had decided on an outdoor ceremony at a botanical garden in New Jersey, small and intimate with just their closest people. Harrison's parents were there, beaming with joy. Simone's family came from Brooklyn in full force. Her mother kept crying happy tears. Her father kept hugging Harrison and thanking him for making his daughter smile again. Julie was the maid of honor. She had been instrumental in planning everything while Harrison and Simone focused on Grace. She stood up during the ceremony and gave a short speech about how she had watched these two people find each other in the darkest time of their lives and build something beautiful. Even the Morrisons came. After the custody case was dismissed, Harrison had reached out to them. He told them they were welcome to be part of Grace's life if they could accept that Grace was his daughter and Simone was becoming her mother. It had taken time, but eventually Patricia called and apologized. They had been wrong to try to take Grace. They had been drowning in grief and lashing out. Now they sat in the audience, watching their son-in-law marry the woman who had saved their granddaughter's life. Patricia had pulled Simone aside before the ceremony and thanked her through tears for loving Grace so completely. The officiant spoke about love and family and second chances. About how sometimes the hardest moments in life lead to the most unexpected blessings. About how choosing to love again after loss is one of the bravest things a person can do. When it was time for vows, Harrison went first. "Simone, 6 months ago you knocked on my door at midnight and changed my life. You saved my daughter. You saved me. You took all the love you had for your son and gave it to Grace. You took all the grief we both carried and turned it into something beautiful." His voice caught. "I promise to love you every day for the rest of my life. I promise to honor your past while building our future. I promise to be the partner you deserve and the father Grace needs. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for staying." Simone was crying. Happy tears that made her eyes shine. "Harrison, when Andre died, I thought my life was over. I thought I would never feel joy again. Then I met you and Grace and suddenly I had a reason to keep going. You gave me purpose. You gave me a family. You gave me love when I thought I was done loving." She squeezed his hands. "I promise to love Grace as my own daughter. I promise to honor Rachel's memory by giving her child the best life possible. I promise to be your partner in everything. I promise that our home will always be filled with kindness and hope. I love you. I love Grace. I love the family we are creating together." There was not a dry eye in the audience when they exchanged rings. Simple gold bands that symbolized their commitment to each other and to Grace. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant said. "You may kiss your bride." Harrison kissed Simone softly while everyone cheered. Grace squealed and clapped her hands, making everyone laugh. The reception was a joyful celebration. They had kept it casual with good food and music and lots of laughter. Grace was passed around, soaking up attention from all her relatives. She was walking now or taking a few wobbling steps before plopping down. Everyone was delighted by her. During dinner, several people gave speeches. Harrison's father talked about how proud he was of his son for being such an incredible dad. Simone's brother talked about how happy his sister looked, how she was glowing in a way she never had before. Then Patricia Morrison stood up. The room got quiet. Everyone knew the history, the custody battle, the tension. "I want to say something," Patricia started. Her voice was shaky. "When we lost Rachel, we thought we lost everything. We were drowning in grief. We made terrible decisions. We tried to take Grace away from her father because we could not bear the pain of losing our daughter." She looked at Harrison. "We were wrong. You are an amazing father. Grace is lucky to have you. And Simone." Patricia turned to look at the bride. "I was wrong about you too. I thought you were just hired help. But you are not. You are Grace's mother. You love her like she came from your own body. You have given her everything she needs and more. Rachel would be grateful to you. I am grateful to you." Patricia sat down, wiping her eyes. Simone got up and hugged her. It was a moment of healing, of forgiveness, of families coming together. After dinner, Harrison and Simone danced their first dance as husband and wife. They swayed together to a slow song while Grace watched from Julie's arms. The baby was getting sleepy, rubbing her eyes. "She should be her flower girl," Simone had said when they were planning the ceremony. "She cannot walk well enough yet," Harrison had laughed. "Then she can be carried down the aisle. I do not care. She is part of this. She brought us together." So Grace had been part of the ceremony, carried by Julie, dressed in her green velvet. She had cooed and smiled through the whole thing, the perfect addition to their perfect day. As Harrison and Simone danced, they talked quietly. "Are you happy?" Harrison asked. "So happy," Simone said. "Are you?" "Happier than I ever thought I would be again." He pulled her closer. "Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for building this life with me. Thank you for asking me to stay. Thank you for loving me." They finished their dance and went to take Grace from Julie. The baby immediately reached for Simone, saying "Mama" clear as day. It was the first time she had said it so clearly. Simone burst into tears. "Did you hear that?" she asked Harrison. "I heard it," he said, his own eyes wet. "She called you Mama." "Mama," Grace said again, patting Simone's face with her little hand. It was the perfect moment. The perfect ending to a perfect day. But it was not an ending. It was a beginning. Want to know what happens next in their beautiful journey? Make sure you subscribe so you never miss stories like this one. And drop a comment telling us, have you ever experienced unexpected love during a difficult time? Your story might inspire someone who needs hope today. 2 years later, on a spring morning, Harrison woke to the sound of children laughing. He rolled over and found Simone already awake, watching him with a smile. "Good morning," she said softly. "Good morning, Mrs. Cole." They still called each other that sometimes. Mr. and Mrs. Cole. It made them both smile. From down the hall came Grace's voice. "Baby crying. Baby crying." Harrison groaned. "Your turn." "Your turn," Simone corrected. "I did the 3 a.m. feeding." They were both right. Their son James was 6 months old and going through a phase of waking up early. Harrison got up and went to the nursery. Grace was already there, having climbed out of her big girl bed to check on her brother. "Daddy, baby crying," she informed him seriously. She was 2.5 now, talking in full sentences and completely obsessed with her little brother. "I hear him," Harrison said. He picked up James, who immediately stopped crying and smiled. "Good morning, buddy." James looked just like Simone. Dark skin, big brown eyes, her smile. Grace looked like Rachel. Between them, Harrison had both his loves represented in his children. He changed James's diaper while Grace supervised, then went back to the bedroom. Simone was sitting up, ready to feed James. She had breastfed him just like she had nursed Grace, though this time it was her biological son. "Come here, little man," Simone said, taking James. He latched immediately and started eating. Grace climbed onto the bed and snuggled against Harrison, sucking her thumb. "This is nice," Harrison said. "All of us together like this." "It is," Simone agreed. She looked around at her family. Her husband. Their son. Their daughter. "I love our life." They had bought a house in the suburbs a year ago. A place with a yard and good schools nearby. The penthouse had been sold. This house was theirs together, filled with memories they were making as a family. Grace started preschool in the fall. She was bright and social, making friends easily. She talked about mommy and daddy without any confusion. Simone was the only mother Grace really remembered. Rachel was a part of their lives through photos and stories, but Simone was mama. The adoption had been finalized 6 months after the wedding. Grace's birth certificate now listed Simone as her mother. It had been an emotional day. Simone had held Grace and cried, thanking her for letting her be her mama. When Simone got pregnant with James, they had both been scared and excited. Scared because of what happened with Andre. Excited because they wanted to expand their family. The pregnancy had been closely monitored. Every ultrasound, every appointment, they held their breath. But James had been born healthy and strong. Simone's labor had been long but uncomplicated. When they placed James in her arms and he looked up at her with alert eyes, Simone had sobbed with relief and joy. "You did it," Harrison had whispered. "You have your son." "We have our son," Simone had corrected. Now James was 6 months old and thriving. A happy baby who loved his big sister and his parents equally. They had recently reconnected with Kevin, Simone's ex. He had reached out to apologize for how he had abandoned her. He was in therapy now, dealing with his own grief and regrets. Simone had forgiven him. She told him about her new life, her family, her happiness. Kevin had cried and said he was glad she found someone better than him. They were not close, but there was peace between them. The Morrisons visited regularly now. Patricia and Donald had become loving grandparents to both Grace and James. They had their own relationships with the kids, taking them for weekends sometimes, sending gifts and cards. The custody battle felt like a distant nightmare. Harrison's company was doing well. He had promoted someone to handle the day-to-day operations so he could work from home more often. His priorities had shifted. Family first. Everything else second. Simone had gone back to work part-time at Metropolitan Hospital. She worked 2 days a week in the lactation clinic, helping new mothers learn to breastfeed. She loved it. Loved using her experience to help others. She had even started a support group for mothers who had lost babies but still had milk. Several women had gone on to become wet nurses or milk donors, turning their grief into something that helped others. "You started something important," Harrison told her often. "You created a whole network of help." "It is what Andre would have wanted," Simone always said. His legacy. On this particular morning, after James finished eating and fell back asleep, they all piled into bed together. Grace in the middle, James in the bassinet beside the bed, Harrison and Simone on either side of their daughter. "Tell story," Grace demanded. "Tell about Mama and Daddy." It was her favorite story. How Mama came to help baby Grace. How Daddy was sad but Mama made it better. How they fell in love and got married. Grace never got tired of hearing it. So Harrison told it again, simplified for a 2-year-old. Once upon a time, there was a daddy who had a tiny baby named Grace. The baby was very hungry but could not eat. Daddy was very worried. Then one night there was a knock at the door. It was Mama. She said she could help the baby. And she did. She fed baby Grace and made her healthy. Then Mama and Daddy became friends. Then they fell in love. Then they got married and had baby James. And now we are a family. Happy ending, Grace said, satisfied. Happy ending, Harrison agreed. He looked over Grace's head at Simone. Very happy ending. Simone smiled at him. The smile that still made his heart skip. The happiest. They lay there together, their family complete. It had been a hard road. Loss and grief and fear. But also love and hope and kindness. They had saved each other. Built something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy. Rachel would always be part of their story. Andre would always be remembered. But life had gone on. Love had grown. And somehow through all the pain they had found their way to happiness. Grace fell asleep between them. James was already sleeping. The house was quiet. Harrison reached across their daughter and took Simone's hand. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too," Simone whispered back. It was a simple moment. Ordinary. But that was the beauty of it. After all the drama and trauma, they got to have this. Normal mornings with their sleeping children. Coffee and breakfast and mundane routines. The privilege of boring, beautiful, everyday life. It was everything. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was their happy ending. And it was real.